Okay, so why are we talking about slope today? Why are we bringing this back from algebra, right? So in geometry, it turns out there's all this really cool stuff that I can do on the coordinate plane. I can actually prove that two lines are going to be parallel on the coordinate plane. I can prove that a shape that has four sides, I could calculate the slopes and the lengths of those sides and determine whether I have a square or a rectangle or a parallelogram or a trapezoid. I can do all of those things on the coordinate plane. So we're going to be dabbling in that a little bit in a couple sections here and there throughout the course. So we need to make sure that we know what slope is and what it can tell me about lines. Okay, so today, yes, we are doing a little throwback to Algebra 1. And so you may know slope already. You may be an expert at slope. And if so, then great. This will be a nice, easy day. If you forgot a lot of stuff about slope, that's all right. I'm going to get you up to speed. And today we're really just looking at slope. And the next week we will incorporate how do I use this to prove lines are parallel and perpendicular we can do. And so we'll talk more about that next week. Okay?
Yes.
So what in the world even is slope, right? Do you remember? Do you remember what slope even is? If you had to define it in your own words, what would you say?
Isn't it y equals mx plus b?
So that's an equation of a line in slope-intercept form. So that uses slope to write the equation of a line. So that's a little bit further down the line. Oh, pun intended. Slope, though. If I'm just talking about slope of a line, it's usually just a number. Does anybody know what that number means? That's okay, I'll tell you. It's basically just how steep your line is. That's literally all it is. The bigger the slope is, the steeper your line's going to be. The smaller your number is, the less steep it's going to be. Okay, and we're always looking at slopes as we move from left to right. Okay, so I'm just going to sketch a coordinate plane here. And let's just say I go in and I have some line like that. Okay, the slope refers to how steep that line is. So I'm just going to put that in words here. Slope is the steepness of a line. I'm going to say, and we always talk about slope as we move from left to right along the line. So we're always going in this direction. We never go the other way, ever. Okay, so we always start at the left and we're moving towards the right. Okay, and that's going to be my measure of steepness. All right, the slope is the steepness of a line as you move from left to right. The bigger the slope is, the steeper the line is. Okay, so if I have a slope of 10, that's really steep. If I have a slope of a half, that's not so bad. Okay, what happens? Does anybody remember what does it mean if the slope is negative? Anybody recall? What does that mean? Is what's going on with your line if the slope is negative?
It's downward.
Yes, it's just going down from left to right. That's literally all you're thinking about. I want you to imagine that you are a person right here, and you're always going to be walking from left to right. Here, you're going uphill. So you're going to have a positive slope there. If you were walking downhill, it would be a negative slope. That's all there is to it. So I'm just going to put that down here. So a positive slope is going to look like this, and it's just going to go up from left to right. And then if you happen to have a negative slope, it just looks like that. And we're going down from left to right. This is if you know just that, I'm telling you right now, that's a huge advantage. Especially when you go to take something like the MCAS, which you will be taking, it's in May, right? I think they've said. So listen, if they ask me, let's just take this one. If they ask me what the slope of this line is, I immediately know that it's negative. So if they give me 4 choices, if any of those choices are positive, I'm going to cross them out right away. Because me just knowing that if the line goes down, the slope has to be negative, I'm probably going to be able to eliminate 1, maybe 2. Maybe you get really lucky and you can eliminate 3 choices, right? I know that has to be negative. Just like I know this one's got to be positive. If it's going up, it's got to be positive. Use that to your advantage. That's also a really easy way to check yourself. Even if it's not multiple choice, if I'm trying to figure this out by hand, I know that my answer here should come out positive. I know that my answer here should come out negative. So even though, obviously I could still have it wrong, but at least I'm in the realm of being right just by checking the sign if it's positive or negative. So that should be a big help. Okay, now, how do you figure out what the actual slope is, right? It's always going to be a fraction. And let me just sort of walk you through how you do it. So to find the slope, given a graph, I'm going to write out the steps here, and then we'll do a couple of examples together. All right, the first thing you want to do is find 2 good points. Ms. Savia, what in the world? Good points? What do you mean? What do you mean good points? I'll show you. Let me just erase my answers from last class so I don't just... There we go. All right, take a look at this. See that line? See how there's already 2 points on here that are kind of, I don't know, they put dots on them, made them a little bit bolder. Those are good points, right? Especially because they told me that they're good points. But what if you have a line that they didn't put the dots on them? You're just going to go along the line and you're just going to look for something just like that. See how the line is crossing on my grid perfectly? These are called lattice points, by the way. I didn't know that. I think I was a math teacher for probably like 5 or 6 years before I found out that those things have a name. All these little points where those light blue lines meet, they're called lattice points. Who knew? I didn't know. Now you know. Lattice points. So I'm going to look for where my line crosses a lattice point perfectly. So there would be a good point. This right here would not be a good point because it doesn't cross perfectly there. You see that? So I wouldn't use that one. I just want any 2 points on my line that I know for a fact where they are. I know they're crossing at those lattice points. So yeah, if they already have one sort of highlighted for me, I'm just going to use theirs. But if they don't, I can find my own. No big deal. Okay. So you're going to find 2 good points. And then once you have the 2 good points, it's actually pretty easy to figure out the slope once you have them. You're simply going to fill in the fraction. Here's the fraction that we're looking at. Oh, you know what I forgot to ask you? Do you guys remember what letter we use to stand for slope? What letter represents slope? Yeah, M, lowercase m. Oh, and I forgot to look it up at lunch why that was. I have no idea why it's an M and not an S, right? My best guess, and this is just a guess, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing that slope in another language maybe starts with the letter M. So maybe they adopt.
It does in French. And it means climb, supposedly.
Oh.
Other than that,
Oh, you cut out.
I said,
Would you say?
other than that, they really don't know why.
Oh, how interesting. Wow. All right. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, we use the letter M. Go figure, but there it is. So M, remember that's just our symbol for slope, in case you forgot. And here's the fraction that we're going to fill in. Our numerator is just going to be how many units you have to go up to get from one good point to the next good point. We're always moving left to right, though, okay? So this is going to be number of units. You go up. What happens if you go down, though? No big deal. You just put a negative number here. So if you have to go down, just put in a negative number. So the top number is really just how many units you're going up or down. If it happens to be down, you just put it in as a negative number. That's it. Up is positive, down is negative. Then on the bottom, you're just going to put in number of units. You go to the right. We're always going to the right. That's going to give you some fraction. Top number tells me up or down. Bottom number always tells me to the right. And then you're literally almost done. The only thing you have to do now is take a look at your fraction, and if you can reduce it, you're going to want to reduce it. But if you can't, then you're literally finished. So I'll just add reduce fraction if possible. The only thing I want to add to you reducing the fraction is that you never want to turn it into a decimal. Do not turn into decimal. And if you have an improper fraction, don't turn it to a mixed number. Just leave it alone. We're literally just going to reduce it and leave it alone. Do not go to mixed numbers either. A mixed number isn't going to help you any. It actually makes it worse. A fraction, as far as slope is concerned, is actually exactly what you want. I don't want it as a decimal. I don't want it as a mixed number, because look at how easy it is when I have it as a fraction. I literally have the directions right in front of me. I know how many units to go up, and I know how many units to go to the right. If I don't have it as a fraction, now I don't have those directions. I wouldn't know what to do. I'd have to basically convert it into a fraction to get those directions. So if I have it as a fraction, I'm actually really happy. This is one of the few times, I know most of you hate fractions. You don't hate them as slope. You love them. That's the goal. We want our slopes to be fractions because it just makes life so much easier. Okay, so I'm going to give you just a second to make sure you have all that down. And then I do have a couple for us to practice. Okay, you ready? I knew you would be. All right, I have 3 of them we're going to try. So let's just zoom in on this first one. All right, so remember what our steps are. Step 1 said find 2 good points. There's 4 good points on this. How do you know which 2 to choose? Guys, it literally doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter which 2 you choose. I picked 2 of them right next to each other just so I don't have to count that many boxes. But you could use these two. You could use these two. You could use these two. Who cares? You just need 2 anywhere on the line. All right, so I'm going to focus on these 2, that one and this one. You're always going to move from left to right. So if I'm filling out my slope, the numerator is just how many boxes I have to go up in this case. So in this case, I'm only going to go up 1, and then I'm moving to the right 1, 2, 3. That is my slope right there. The number of units you go up is your numerator, so that's just a 1. And then my denominator is just how many units I move to the right. So I went up 1, and then I'm going to the right 1, 2, 3. So my denominator is literally just a 3. That's it. My slope is 1/3. I'm done. That was not bad at all. I'm going to double check myself. Before I even started, I should have asked you, what do you know about this slope? The line's going up, so it's got to be positive. So I just double check myself real quick. Yep, I have a positive answer. So I'm at least in the realm of possibility here. 1/3. By the way, what if you had picked these 2 points? Guess what? You're still going up 1 to the right, 1, 2, 3. You're still going up 1 to the right, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter which 2 points you picked. As long as it's a straight line, the slope will be the same all over the line. It can't ever change. I hope that makes sense. Is everybody okay so far? Anybody have a question? Yeah? No? Good? Yeah? Old news, right? You remember this. It's been a while since you've talked about slope, I'm sure. Okay, so you try this one then. Take a look at this. See if you can find me the slope of this line. Feel free to send it to me in the chat, or if you want to just shout it out, shout it out. I'm thinking of another song. I don't know who sings it, but it's an old one. That one, shout, shout, shout it all out. These are the things I can do without.
No, what is it, 2?
You're close. What do we know about the slope of this line before we even start?
That it's
Guys, what has to be true about the slope of this line?
going down.
Yes.
So
So whatever
2.
you say your answer is, it's got to be a negative number.
That's what I thought, because it's a
Yeah. If it's going down, I'm thinking of another song. It's going down for real. Do 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 do. I don't know who sings that one either, but it's in my head now. So this one is going down. It's got to be negative. So no matter what I think the answer is, I'm double checking that it's negative. So let's sort of work through our way through this one. So again, my numerator is just how many I'm going to go up or down. Pick 2 points. It doesn't matter which 2. I'll just pick these 2, whatever. This one and this one. Doesn't matter. You can pick any 2. So I'm always going from left to right. So this time I had to drop down 2. I'm going down 2. So the numerator is always how many you're going up or down. Since I had to go down, that means my numerator is -2. Does everybody see that? I had to go down 2. And then the bottom number, my denominator, is always how many I go to the right. I only had to go to the right 1 space. So that means my denominator is just a 1. Does that make sense? Be careful, guys, because I'm seeing a lot of you have it flipped the other way. It should be -2 on top and then a 1 on the bottom. Now, am I done? Not exactly, because step 3 says to simplify the fraction if you can, and you can do this, right? -2 divided by 1 is just -2. So I would actually go ahead and change this to just -2. If you leave it as -2/1, you're not wrong. I don't care if you do that, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you're doing like a multiple choice test or something, they're almost, I'd be shocked if they actually left it over 1. They're just going to simplify it to be this. Right? Mathematically, they're the exact same thing. I personally kind of like it like this because remember, I like it to be a fraction because I know exactly what I'm doing. But whenever we have a denominator of just 1, they're just never going to write it. So I just want you to sort of get in the habit of writing it as just the number. Okay, let's try one more. How about this one? Ask yourself before you even start, should this be positive or negative? And then at least you know you're going to be in the realm of correctness. You know what I mean. I don't know. I hope you know what I'm talking about.
Can I say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
6/4.
You're right.
But like 3/2.
Yes.
Because you have to
So,
use it.
yeah, this one has 2 nice dots for me already, right? So as I'm going from left to right, this time I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have to go up 6. So my numerator is a 6. And then the denominator, I'm just going to count how many I'm going to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the denominator is always going to the right. 6/4, though, remember step 3 is to simplify the fraction if you can simplify it. And I can this time. 6/4 reduces down to be 3/2. Would you change this into 1.5? No, don't touch it. Just reduce and stop. Don't turn this into a decimal, 1.5. What the heck are you going to do with 1.5? Nothing. So don't do that. Change it to a mixed number? No. Again, 1.5. That doesn't mean anything. This means something. This means I'm going to go up 3 units over 2 units. But wait, Mrs. Sabia, that's not what we did to get between these 2 points. True, but check this out. If I do go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and I go over 2, look at that. Oh my gosh. So basically, there could have been a point here. They just chose not to highlight that one. But isn't that one at a perfect lattice point? And then look, I can do it again. Up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2. Get out. Yes. So when you simplify the fraction, that's going to get me the smallest numbers that I can go up and over and stay on the same line. You could do 6/4, but why wouldn't you just reduce it down to be 3/2, right? My answer should have been positive because this line's going up. It is positive, so I'm feeling confident about all of that. Okay. I know this is old news. I know you guys remember this, I hope, or if you forgot, this was hopefully a good refresher. Now, I do want to finish up by talking about what happens when you don't get a graph and they just give you an ordered pair. Oh boy. Do we remember how to do that? Sorry, my sun blocker is just flip-flopping all over the place here. Okay, here. So last thing I want to ask you, how do you find the slope between? How to find slope given only ordered pairs? So in other words, let's just say I give you one point A. Let's make it easy to start off with. Let's say it's at 3,5. And then I have a second point B at, 1,10. If I want to find the slope between these 2 points, does anybody remember what to do? I'll give you a hint. There's a formula. Oh, someone put the formula in the chat. Oh, and you're almost close to having it right. You made a mistake that a lot of kids make on it. I'll show you why in a minute. Is anyone else remembering what the formula is to find slope?
Would it be you do y1 plus y2 divided by x1 and x2?
You're super close too. So this is one of the downsides of the formula for slope is that everybody kind of remembers the pieces, but if you don't have them right and in the right spot, it can kind of be a mess. So here is the formula for slope. Are you ready? Everybody ready? Just slope, okay? To find slope between 2 points, you're going to do the following. It's going to be y2 minus y1 up top. And then on the bottom, it's x2 minus x1. So common mistakes are that kids put the x's on top and the y's on the bottom. You actually remember hearing that, right? Rise over run for slope. Oh no, my internet connection is unstable. Don't tell me that. I'm on a roll here. So anyway, rise is the y values. So that's what we need in our numerator. That tells me up and down. And then moving to the right is the x values. So always make sure you have the y's on top and the x's on the bottom. All right. Another common mistake is that sometimes kids forget that you're supposed to be subtracting. So you want to make sure that you're minusing. Now here's actually, I'm not going to say it's a mistake because it actually doesn't matter. Sometimes kids put y1 minus y2. And as long as you have x1 minus x2 on the bottom and you stick to that, that actually won't matter. So if you learned it the other way, that's fine as long as you're doing the same on top and bottom. But you have to have y's on top and you have to have x's on the bottom. And we do have to be subtracting them. All right, so let's kind of walk through how we're supposed to do this. So step one, I'm going to plug the values into the formula. Now I'm going to put a star here because I need to watch my signs. This particular example, because all my points over here are positive, this one won't be so bad, but I'll do an example in a minute where things get really tricky. So we need to be really careful that we are not messing this up. But don't worry, I'll help you practice it. So we're going to plug the values in. Then you are going to, I don't know, do the math. Do the math. And then same thing as usual, you're just going to simplify your fraction if you can. And that's it. The hardest part is just evaluating it correctly, plugging the numbers in the right spots, and then actually doing the math right. Because one mistake in this and it throws everything off. So it can be a little tedious to get them wrong, especially because you're like, oh, I did all this other stuff right, but I messed up this one thing. I know. It's frustrating. Okay, so let's do this example, and I'll sort of walk you through how this works. So, you know what? I'm actually just going to go right back. I'll just write right up here. Here's what I personally like to do. Remember that ordered pairs, it's always x, then y. And I have 2 points, don't I? Here's my first point. Here's my second point. So don't get thrown off by these little 1s and 2s on the bottom here. That's just saying, hey, here's an x and a y, right? But they're for my first point. So we just put a little 1 on the side so I know which point I'm talking about. That's all those little 1s and 2s are. This is still an x and a y, but now it's my second point. So I just put a little 2 down here so I know which x and which y I'm referring to. So I personally like to label. I literally write this. I write them on there so I don't mess it up. Because now that it's labeled, watch this. When I go to plug everything in, it's so much easier. So let's see, y2. Oh, I have it labeled. It's just 10. So I just pop in a 10, and now watch, everybody. Watch. I write 10, and then immediately after that number, I'm going to write a minus sign. I'm always going to write a minus sign right after that first number. Always. And now I just look. It says, oh, minus, let's see, what's y1? Oh, it's 5. Okay, now I just put a 5 in there. And then I do the same thing downstairs. X2, what are you? Oh, you're just 1? Okay. So I write a 1, and then I immediately write a minus sign. And then I look. Okay, X1, what are you? Oh, 3. Okay. And then I pop in a 3. So there's step 1 done. I have plugged everything in. This wasn't particularly hard because none of my numbers were negative over here. So in the next example, I'll throw in some negatives and we'll have to be really careful. So now step 2 says just do the math. Okay, I can do that. 10 minus 5, that's easy. That's just 5. And then 1 minus 3, that's negative 2. Can I reduce that fraction? No. The only thing I'm going to touch on this one is the negative sign. So I'm actually glad that this came up. See how this has the negative in the bottom? Right? Guys, isn't it the same thing? Aren't you allowed to just, if you have a negative in a fraction, can't you just move it if you want to? If I want to move it to the upstairs and make it negative 5 over positive 2, aren't I allowed to do that? Yes, you are. So here's the thing. Mathematically, they're the exact same thing. If you do 5 divided by negative 2 or negative 5 divided by positive 2, it's the same darn thing. So the reason why I'm always going to move the negative upstairs is for 2 reasons. One, remember, these are directions. This now tells me if I were graphing this line, I need to go down 5 to the right 2. I always want my denominator to be a positive number because I'm always going to the right. The top number could be positive or negative because I'm either going up or down. The second reason why I'm going to move it upstairs is because you're almost never going to see it written like this if it's a multiple choice sort of situation. I can't ever recall a time where they've put the negative in the denominator and left it there. Sometimes what they might do is they might put the negative out in front, sort of in like no man's land here. Oh, oops, I meant to put the 5 on top, sorry. 5 is on top, 2 is on bottom. That's fine too. I don't personally love that though, because again, I like this because this is literally a set of directions. It's telling me to go down 5 to the right 2. When it's out here in no man's land, that's weird to me. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? Where does it go? So if I see this, my brain immediately interprets it as that. Let's try another one. Okay, let's throw in some negatives. Let's see what happens. Find slope between A and B. All right, now let's have A at, let me zoom in a bit. Oh, A, where do you want to be? How about negative 2, 6, or negative 6, because I wrote a negative already, whatever. And let's put B at 3, negative 4. Okay, so let's try this. I personally am encouraging you to write the formula for slope every time you do it. Why? Really, Mrs. Sabia, you want us to write that every time? You don't have to, but I tell you what, it will get solidified in your brain so much faster. I know it's open notes for you guys this semester, so it's not as big of a deal, but it's not always going to be open notes, right? And you will, I guarantee you'll be using slope quite a bit in Bridge and Algebra 2. So it's helpful to just sort of get it in your brain so then it's stuck there. If you find it helpful to label your points, go for it. That's just an X and a Y, right? But it's my first point, so I put little 1s. Here's another X and a Y, but it's my second point, so I put little 2s. So go ahead, pop all your values in. Watch the signs this time. Be careful. Does everybody have an answer? Try it. If you haven't, I'll give you like 10 more seconds. Get as far as you can. Hopefully you have an answer already. And then we're going to talk about the signs. Oh my gosh. All right, you ready? Watch. Please, everybody watch me. Even if you think you know what you're doing here. Please watch, watch, watch. Okay, y2. Oh, that's just a -4. So I write -4, and then I immediately put a minus sign. Always, whatever that first number is, just put a minus sign right after it. And now let's see. Oh, okay, y1. What are you? Oh, you're -6. Watch how I write this. -6. Do you see that? So you have minus -6. What happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you have minus a negative? Yes, it's going to turn into a plus. So I'll do that in the next step here. Let me just do the bottom. X2, what are you? Oh, you're 3. And then I immediately write a minus sign. Before I even look at what the next number is, I'm writing 3 and then minus. And now I go back and I look. What's X1? Oh, -2. It happened again. So in this case, both of these have minus negative, so they're both going to turn to plus. Watch. Everybody watch me. This first one, that -4, that's still negative, right? It's the minus the negative. These two things come together and turn into a plus. So now I have +6. Then on the bottom, same thing happens. That 3 stays as it is, but now minus a negative comes together to turn into +2. Oh, you gotta watch. Those negatives are sneaky. Be careful. Now I just go ahead and do the math. So now up top I have -4 plus 6. That's just 2. And on the bottom, 3 plus 2 is just 5. Ooh, be careful. Now I'm done. I can't simplify that fraction. Everything's all set. I know they are tricky. I'm not gonna lie. You got to really be mindful of those negatives. So let me give you another one to try. I'll leave this example right there so you can sort of model it. So same thing. A, let's say this time is at 4, -3, and let's put B at I don't know, 10, -1. Try that. A and B are now at those points. Use your formula, pop everything in. I have no idea what the answer comes out to be, but I will figure it out. This is a good one. Make sure you follow all of your steps. Plug in the numbers, do the math, and then simplify a fraction if there's anything to simplify. I got one answer in the chat, and I think it is correct. I'm never confident until I write it down on paper. If you're trying to do them in your head, guys, listen, I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. I'm pretty good at math, okay? If I'm having trouble keeping track of everything in my own brain, and literally this is all I do all day, every day, this is actually my job, maybe we should just write it on paper to be sure. Okay, I know some of you are super big on your mental math, and I applaud you for that, but do me a favor, write it down, because there's just too much to keep track of, right? There's so much going on here. All right, let's try it. So again, I like to write the formula just to get it cemented in my brain. There it is. Here's an X and a Y, and it's just my first point, so I put little ones. Here's an X and a Y, and it's just my second point, so I put little twos. All right, got it, great. Let's pop everything in. By the way, I got a whole bunch of answers and they're all the same. So I'm pretty sure you guys have it right. Y2, let's see, what are you? You're -1. So I'm going to write -1 minus. And now I go back and I look. What's Y1? Oh, it's -3. Okay, no problem. -3. Just like that. So I hope you wrote it just like you see that I wrote it. Then on the bottom, X2, what are you? Oh, you're 10? Okay, no problem. 10 minus. And then I go and I look, what's X1? Oh, it's just a 4. So I just put in a 4. Now I got to do the math. So upstairs, yes, that's going to turn into -1 plus 3, right? Because I have that minus a negative. Anytime you have that, it turns into plus. Downstairs, that's just 10 minus 4. That's easy. It's just 6. So then up top, -1 plus 3 is 2 over 6. So all of you that reduce that down to 1/3, you are correct. Positive 1/3 is my correct final answer. Yes! Great job, you guys. Oh, I'm so happy. All right. Does anybody have any questions right now? We're all right? Everybody's all right? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording right here.